But before we start, there is an interesting fact about Ramadan and you and me. Remember?
Is that the how we met?
Yeah. Come on,
Yeah.
man. I don't remember what day was it, but what day it was, but I remember that it was the day that I was volunteering in a
Yeah, I
mosque,
came in too.
and you came in with Hadi, and you were fighting. You were fighting about whether you should wait for him to pray or you should pray already, but you prayed already, right?
Yeah, well, I wanted to help you, so I just prayed, and then he came and he said, "You should have waited. This is why I came here."
Yeah, that's funny. Anyway, so it's been a year now. So now I consider you a friend.
Oh, not way back when.
I'm joking. Anyway, so Josh, yeah, tell people about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? Tell about yourself. Tell people about yourself.
Pretty simple. I'm just here, born in Massachusetts, United States. Stayed in Massachusetts. If anyone's watching, they don't know Massachusetts. New York. Everyone knows New York, so a couple hours outside of that.
Oh, well, everybody in the Middle East, they know Boston.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Boston.
Yep.
Boston's good. I'm from Boston.
Why? Yeah, the England accent. It's the matter, huh?
So,
Yeah,
yep, grew up here, didn't get out much. Pretty typical for an American life.
yeah. And you are, what was your study?
Yeah, so went through the military, found healthcare was an interest of mine. Thought it would be
Yeah.
pretty worthwhile to become a nurse, so I studied that for a few years. Um, was given a decision to finalize that or take my chance and make it out to Mecca. So I went to Mecca. Circumstances led me away from nursing, just the
Hmm.
administration at the time. So I switched my major. So now I'm studying graduate health administration.
Okay. Well, that's a long run, right? A lot of
Yeah,
switch.
there's more to
So,
it, but we'll keep the small details out of it.
right. So, here is my first question about your story. How did it all start? Where was the start and like the decision, the introductions? What happened?
I mean, do you want to know the whole story or just how I came to Islam?
Well, like give me a story. We want to
Okay,
know the story.
so when I was 18, I had received military orders to do a security job for a building, and it was overnight, and the building was empty. So I had a lot of
Yeah.
free time on my hands. Um, just got into some movies. I think the big series there was called The Prophecy. Talking about angelic wars and the wars the angels had among themselves before mankind was created really piqued my interest. So I started studying all these ancient scripts that discussed, what the Western world calls angels, but we in Islam, we understand it to be the jinn who did exist before us, right? So this is one of the things that echoes. Then I started studying Hinduism, and really Hinduism had that main focus called the Brahman, which they would consider would be the creator, and then all the other deities that the Hindus worship now, I would find them to be as like angels. So when an angel comes and they speak to the messengers, and then the people over time they start to worship the angel, and then it becomes its own, god or false idol. Humans, we always misinterpret everything. But anyways,
Mhm.
I started realizing that if this was the case, then probably come back to my original roots as a Christian. So I was a
Yes.
Christian for some time, and I was going to Bible studies. I was pretty good in the school, Worcester State University. I was pretty good at they had a Bible club, and I would go and we would discuss passages and chapters. But it always left more questions than answers.
Hmm.
And I studied Judaism, which is a core component of Christianity, anyways, even though most Christians segue out of that. But the big thing that was just that Jesus cannot be God. Allah cannot come in person to be anyone and be hungry and go to the bathroom and do all this stuff that Jesus did. So
Hmm.
it left me feeling empty. And then there was just that one day I was tutoring some
Can I
nursing
can I
students.
can I interrupt you?
Oh yeah, please.
Tell me about like one of these days when you felt like empty. How did you feel exactly? Like you are going to the club, coming back, you've got more questions than answer. Were you like questioning yourself, like arguing with yourself? How did it feel?
Yeah, just nonsensical. Like nothing made sense. And
Mhm.
no matter who you talked to, they would have a different opinion, and that's all it is. It's an opinion. It's one person's opinion.
Mhm.
And I was even discussing with one of the ministers on the campus, and he was so close to saying that, yeah, it's impossible for God to become a person
Yeah.
and walk on the earth. But he realized this is where he was going, and his own mind stopped him. And he just
Mhm.
went back to his original teachings. And it's this kind of mind block that you hit where you start to say, oh, I'm going to say something that doesn't resonate with my initial belief. And you get afraid. So you stop thinking forward.
Mhm.
And it's just like a roadblock. And you get frustrated and you're not sure what to believe. And then you see a lot of Christians, they fall out of their own faith because of this very reason.
Mhm. Yeah. So until you said until that night, before I interrupt you.
Yeah, so then the one day uh, I was tutoring some nursing students, and there was a young woman, and she was wearing the hijab. And I'm American, right? So inherently I'm ignorant a little bit. So I never thought even to open a book regarding Islam at all. But I do remember a few months before this, I did buy a Quran from Amazon because Donald Trump was going to be president. And I said, I have to buy this now, or maybe I'll never be able to buy one. So I bought it. Maybe I read Surah Al Fatiha, and that was it from the book. And then it just went months. But then, so this day, I saw the woman with the hijab, and something inside of me just said, just go ask a little bit. Go ask something. So I started to ask questions while I was doing the tutoring. And anytime
What
you
were
talk,
some of the questions?
what do you believe? The biggest one, I think, that misconception is that because they call God in Islam Arabic is Allah, that it is a different entity than the original God, the only creator from
Mhm.
Abraham through Musa, all of them.
Yeah.
So some clarifications on this, how they regard the Prophet, Salatu Salam. Uh, is he just like Jesus, or what? Do they follow him? And then stuff like this. And I think it got overbearing on her, and she just said, maybe you should talk to my father.
Hmm.
He's in our community a prominent imam. I don't want to keep any names. We'll let them keep their
Right.
ejr between them and Allah.
Yeah. Right.
But I went. Funny story. So I went. She said, meet him on Friday. During Jumu'ah. So the
Hmm.
first day I went, I knew nothing. I knew nobody in Islam. I just know you're supposed to meet this man here.
Yeah.
She
And
told
you
me
went.
she told me in school, go to the back. So I went to the back, not even by the books in the masjid where they have the chairs for visitors. I went to the floor and I just sat. So after the khutbah, everyone stood to pray. And there's 3 spaces in front of me, and the Muslim brothers are, go step forwards. And I said, no, no, please,
Come
no,
on,
thank you.
pray.
I said, no, I'm good, right?
Yeah,
I was getting so shy. So
of course.
so I didn't even know what this man looked like. I just
Uh,
knew they said to meet him there.
You're
So
looking for the mystery.
yeah, I left early. I was too shy. I felt shy, and I left right after the prayer. So I said this, and she said, no, no, this time my father is looking for you. Go again, go again. So I went again.
Mhm.
I met him briefly. He said, why don't you come tonight, dinner at my house? We can talk in more detail. So that's what I did. We went, and we talked about the prophet, what the prophet did, why we pray the way we pray, how we pray, just the core beliefs, and stuff that he was talking about through this dinner. And just side note, not because the food was delicious. That's not why I became Muslim, but you
Maybe.
know. But a lot of the things that we did in Islam, I was coming to find myself doing them already. So I would pray in a sujood. I didn't do the full rak'ah, because I didn't know. But I said, if there's a creator, you should prostrate to the creator. And this is something we should do, humble yourself. And I would always do it after my shower, right? So we have our wudu, and I would do it as I showered. And there was things in Christianity that they talk about. I talked to one man, and he said, even if you think of doing something bad, it counts as a sin on you. So it counts as a bad deed because you thought of it. And this doesn't make sense at all.
Mhm.
And this is what some stuff clarified in Islam, if you have a
Yeah,
bad
because
thought,
yourself is always telling you to do the bad thing.
right, and it's the control, the going against that bad thing that actually counts as a good deed.
Yeah.
And it made so much sense, and I felt so at peace. And like when you take one of those music forks and you ding it, and I was just ringing in the
Yeah.
universe perfectly. So we finished the meal, and we prayed Maghrib all together with him in his house. And he said, do you have any more questions? I said, yeah. So how do I become Muslim? Because in
Wow, that was
Christianity,
fast.
yeah, it felt, because I was already having the beliefs, and this affirmed it.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. And I'm used to Christianity. You got to go to a river, or you have to go to a church, and they have to bless some water and throw it on you, and it's a process. I didn't know you just become Muslim by saying the Shahada.
Yeah.
But he told me, come to the mosque on Sunday, so 2 days from this dinner,
Yeah.
for the Dhuhr prayer. And he said, we'll have the Shahada there for you. And it was great. It was actually my nephew's first birthday. So I went to the mosque first. I prayed Dhuhr there. They called me to the front. I made my Shahada poorly. I did not study it beforehand. I should have even looked at what it was. But, they walked me through it, so it was a good time. And
Yeah.
then I don't know
Well,
what
Arabic
was
is
so
hard
big.
anyway. So I'm sure they understood.
I don't know what was going on this Sunday for Dhuhr that made it so busy, but there was probably like,
Sunday school.
oh, right.
That's why, maybe.
So, yeah, there was like 70 people there, and it was busy.
Yeah.
And then, so I got hugs from everyone, kisses, and the whole 9 yards. I said
And you weren't used to that,
I
right?
never got this much affection in my life.
Oh yeah, you felt loved right away, right?
I felt, yeah, very welcoming. And then, you know, I went from there back to my nephew's first birthday party, and I just felt so good, clean. I felt fresh, like I was new, and that, I cannot explain it.
I know. When you were leaving the mosque, after Shahada. What was going on in your mind?
Uh,
What were you thinking of?
just happiness. I felt happiness. I felt at peace. Like there was no more questions. Like, oh, my search is over. Finally, I found what I was looking for. Um, I was a little nervous. How is my family going to react to this? I had been taught, I gave up pork before this. I told my mother, I'm not going to eat this. And then, you know,
Yeah, I'm
testing
coming to
it
this
out.
question now. But there's something I want to talk about in your story before we move to any other question. So, Josh, when you were speaking, I noticed that you were like just self-motivated in a way that would make anyone wonder, like, why? You know, it's just like something was pushing you. Have you ever thought about that? Like, a lot of Americans might think about Islam or what Islam is about or whatever this religion is. We want to know, but we wouldn't take the steps that you took. Or if they might have taken the first step going to the mosque or asking the girl with hijab, they're not gonna go again after
Right.
feeling so shy in this Friday prayer when people are inviting you to pray.
Well, I mean, you have the core belief that there is a creator and that you have a purpose, right? And
Yeah.
then, it's echoed in the Quran many times. Allah will guide whoever He wills.
Hmm.
So if you seek the right path and your intentions are pure, then of course Allah will guide you. He will put a leash on you and He will guide you and give you the strength to go. But if you don't have the right reasons or you don't have the right niyyah to why you're asking what you're asking, then He will not guide you. He will just lead you be the astray. And this is the power. I didn't
Yeah,
do it. Allah brought me to Islam.
that's right. That's right. And how lucky do you feel that you were the one who was guided that way, motivated, and just like the reasons, everything happened like in sequence that would bring you to Islam. How lucky do you feel?
I feel pretty fortunate that I discovered it the way I did. I
Yeah.
have a pretty firm understanding of Jewish history, of Christian history and theology, and it really expounds Islam in a way that I think that some scholars, I mean, even the scholars, they know Christianity. As Dr. Zake, he memorized the Bible too. He can tell you exactly what verse and page it's on. And that's important to know as Muslims too. But it's a more solidified foundation when you have Islam as the answer sheet.
Yeah. By the way, since you mentioned some shiuch, who's your favorite sheikh?
I like Dr. Zake. He's good. And he's got enough sass too. So if someone gives him a hard time, it's fun to watch.
Yeah. And who's your favorite Holy Quran reciter?
Oh, Sudais, I
Hard
think.
question.
Sheikh Sudais.
Sudais?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so you just like finished your story, and here we come to your family reaction. So you became a Muslim. You didn't tell anyone, and you're going to your nephew birthday. It's like that is funny.
Yeah.
How was it? Just tell me.
I mean, so I came in late. The party started at 12,
Yeah.
and I think Dhuhr at the time was maybe 12:30.
Yeah.
So I went to the party late anyways. So people were asking, "Oh, where were you? Were you working?" I was dressed nice. I can't remember if I had a tie, but I had a shirt, a nice shirt, and nice pants. And they said, "Oh, like, where did you come from? Where did you come from?" I said, "Oh, so I went to the mosque, and I'm a Muslim now." And I think again here I'm fortunate too. My mother doesn't care. Not to say she doesn't care, but if I'm happy and I'm not doing anything illegal or bad, she's content with that. So she's not going to question it and then say anything. I think at first it was weird for her. Um, my aunt, on the other hand, she's a very big church goer. She goes to church every Sunday. My Her husband, he's from Alabama, so he's got that Southern Baptist Christian in him. So, but as long as I'm happy and they're happy
How
that
was
I'm
the
happy,
reaction?
they almost looked confused. Like maybe they thought I was joking. I mean, you know me, I'm a joking kind of guy. So,
I know.
so they maybe thought it was a joke, but over the next few times, I started exemplifying Islam. Oh no, I'm not going to eat this bacon on the burger. It's fine. I'm going to step away from this pork. You mind if I just step in the other room for a minute? I want to pray real quick.
Yeah. And how was like giving up things, like giving up eating pork, giving up drinking alcohol, giving up like women before marriage, all this?
Yeah, so the pork was probably the easiest thing to give up.
Of
That's
course.
that's
I
just
don't know why you eat it, man. I mean, like not you, like your society. Like I don't know.
no. If I smell it now, I find it repulsive. I say, oh, this is the grossest
Right.
smell.
Yeah.
But when you grow up eating it, it's good. I don't know. But
Mhm.
before this, the few months before I started talking to this Muslim woman about Islam, I was actually drinking alcohol a lot. I was still in college at the time. Obviously, I was tutoring students, but I would finish my classes and I would just start drinking. And I would stay on campus and I would be drinking alcohol on campus and I would just wait and then I would go home and then I would go to sleep. And yeah, I was not in a good place at the time. Um, but anyways, this is what Allah saves everyone. So immediately I stopped alcohol. I think I drank one time after I became Muslim, and I absolutely hated it. I said, nope, this is not for me. I don't know why I ever did this. And then I said, not only that, but I just ruined my prayers for 40 days. So I hope for some mercy on that end.
Yeah.
And then, I did. I
Well,
grew
it
up,
was a transitional time anyway.
yeah. And I grew up, dating women. So this is like, it was normal for me. You have a girlfriend, you have a boyfriend, or you talk to a woman and you start getting these ideas and then you just act on it. So it's feeling a little more restrained. You say, oh, okay, I need to be careful, make sure I'm not saying this thing that leads to something that I have no control.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm no Yusuf alayhi salam, so I don't have the women coming after me, so it's easy.
You've got the muscles though.
Now I do, not before.
Oh man. Oh man. It's something I have to tell the people who are watching us now. Josh used to wake me up at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. to go work out. Like, why 5 a.m.? We can work out during the day, like afternoon and evening. But no, 5 a.m. every day.
Got to
You
do
still
it
work out
before
now?
work. Huh?
You still work out?
I did. I paused. We're a week into Ramadan. My body's feeling good, so I'm gonna start doing a little pre-iftar workout just to keep the muscles going. But
Oh, that's
you
good.
know, this month is about Allah and not the body. So
Right. So working out the soul, your soul, right?
a little bit trying.
Okay. Um, so you told me that your family reaction is just something I need to explain to people who are watching because people from the Middle East are not going to understand that and they need clarification. Your aunt from Alabama or her husband from Alabama. People in Alabama are religious. They care about religion. But people in Massachusetts is different. Like mostly they don't care about religion. They don't
Right.
care who you like what your religion is, but they care if you're a good person, right?
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
say that. Okay. Um, so you told me already. I was about to ask who was supportive and who wasn't. But you said like your mom was supportive, or at least she was understanding. Were there any people who weren't supportive, like were against it, or they didn't like it, or you didn't feel right talking to them about it?
So family dynamic is much different than the typical Middle Eastern dynamic. Even my aunts, I'm not super close to my aunts. Um,
Hmm.
any family that extends outside of that, we're really in no communication. So it's not like I have my mother's aunt, coming in on a daily basis or anything. My father wasn't present for the majority of my life, so I didn't have a father. And so really, it's just my mother and then my sister. Um, my sister, for whatever reason, accepted it, but she has a hard time with the fact that I don't celebrate Christmas, so she still feels obliged to, buy gifts and send whatever. Yeah, as I say, no, you don't have to do that. That's fine. I don't celebrate Christmas. And she says, no, I have to do it. So other than that, it was been a pretty breeze. But since we're talking about family, um, so last November in the United States, we have Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
which is just a day to say thank you for whatever we have in front of us, and then the family gets together in mass. Um, like if the U.S. had a Jumu'ah, it would be Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah.
So I went with my
But
wife,
it's annual, not weekly.
annual, right? I went with my wife to Vermont, north of us, to see my grandparents, and on the way down, we actually met my father for the first time in 20 years
Wow.
because a nurse that I used to work with got engaged to him. And I
Wow.
found through her Facebook, I said, oh, why you're commenting on this man? This is my father. And she said, I never put two and two together. I said, we have the same last name. Like, you didn't know that? We come from the same area. So it was funny. But
Wow, I'm
she's,
shocked. I didn't know this story. Okay, tell me.
yes.
And
So she said, she sent a message, do you want to meet with your father? And I had to take a minute. I said, I can't answer this right now. Like, you give me some time to think. And I'm not angry. Everyone does what they have to do. I understand. My mother had me when she was 15. He himself, I think he was 17 or 18. You're too young to have children, so I don't fault anyone for the past.
yeah,
But I said I have no emotion in this matter whatsoever. Like, to me, it's just gonna be like meeting a stranger, after 20 years. But this is where Islam kicked in, and I said, when I die and I am before Allah, He will forgive me. He is the most merciful, and He will see me and hear my case. I said, if I cannot do this to my father, then surely I am not worthy of Jannah ever. So you could
wow.
not go see this man for lunch, and he is your own father. So it was with Islam the only reason I met him and had this lunch.
How was the meeting? Briefly.
Yeah, it was awkward at first. I talked mostly with my friend who was the nurse. My
Hmm.
wife was with us too, so. But my father kept smiling, and he was shy too. He didn't know what to say, and we met. I think I don't know if it was one or two more times. I still talk to them on Facebook. We're probably gonna do stuff this summer, inshallah, if coronavirus goes away. But
Yeah.
it's just interesting, because I never thought this was gonna happen in my life at
Well,
all.
me neither. I'm still like, I don't know, overwhelmed with the story. I didn't know you met your father. Okay, so yeah, so actually that was like one of the questions. Um, I see like I know you very well, and I met a lot of your family members. I met your mom. I met your grandparents, and your sister. And I have a question actually. Like, I noticed that you are keeping a very good relationship with your family. And I wanted to know how and why. Like, I know here in the US, like, family is not a priority for a lot of people, right? But you just like got into something different, which is Islam. And you are still keeping a good relationship with them, maybe even better than before. Am I right?
Yeah, I definitely think it's better than before.
So how? How and why?
Um, so another brief history is that I moved out of my mother's house when I was 16, and I lived with my grandparents
Yeah,
because we were always fighting. I mean, I'm 16 and my mother at the time was 31. So my mother is our age with a 16-year-old child,
yeah.
right? It's tough. It's a tough dynamic and it just wasn't healthy, so I left. And even before that, we didn't have this type of relationship where you see your mom, you give her a hug every day, you kiss her on the cheek. I think maybe I hugged my mother one time since you become that age, 10 or 11, and it was when
Mhm.
her aunt passed away, and I gave her a hug, and that was it. We don't have that affection like you see families have, but with Islam, you have to respect your parents. You have to be close to them. I find even my mother now is a little more caring than growing up. And I don't know if it's because I'm a different person because of Islam or I'm behaving a certain way and she's starting to behave this way also. Um, so there's that aspect. Me
I'm
and my
sure this
sister never got along,
had
but
like a very big, a vast change in your personality since you joined Islam.
yeah, I mean, before Islam, I was one, not guided. I was using alcohol as a coping mechanism for stress and I was not praying. I had no resources, you know. Even with Islam, I built so many great friendships that I could call you anytime, come over, and it's gonna be like you haven't been in Framingham for months. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We would just pick up where we left off, and I never had that before Islam either, and that helps as well.
yeah. So you said you told me how that your personality changed. You knew that you have to respect your parents, but what about like the other family members that are not your parents, like your grandparents, your aunt? You've been having like a very good relationship with them. I remember the day we went out in this in that restaurant where we met your aunt and her children, and you're both grandparents. You remember, right?
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
I was so happy. Like they love you. So why and how?
No, I think I treat my family kind of more as friends, and I think that might have something to do with it. My grandfather, he's always been a friend. He's a good influence on me. A lot of my jokes come from him. Um, Even he's forgetful, and he doesn't really know what Islam means. He still respects the fact that that's what I believe. I get the same question every time: is you can't eat chicken or pork, or which one is it, or stuff like that. But I spoke with him the other night, and he did ask. He said, "Well, you're still doing your prayers every day, right?" So even he asked that in a sense that, "Oh, are you still keeping true to yourself?" My grandmother, she loved. I gave her. She asked so many questions. She asked questions like I asked questions. So the last time they were down here, I don't know, last summer sometime, and I gave her an English Quran with very clear translation, not the old English doth he language. So I said, you just read it. I said, you don't have to believe it. I said, your belief is whatever you want to believe. Lakum dinakum waliya din. But
Mhm.
you have questions, it doesn't hurt. Read the book. Then you'll know, what do we believe? This is what we think. If you want to believe, this is your choice. This is, if Allah wants to guide you to this path. But giving someone the book, you did the best you can.
That's good. Okay, Josh, and since you've been talking about the change that happened in your life, was there any materialistic change as well?
I have never been a materialistic person. Um, I like to have things that I like to have, like my personal gym stuff. But I've never been the one to go out and say, "Oh, I'm going to get a Ferrari just to have a Ferrari." If I wanted something, it's because I liked to enjoy it. Most of my funds spent on food, anyways. But no, and it's been changing the past couple months. I think I got married. Now I have a sense of real responsibility, so I
Like a
need to
Moroccan woman. Highlighted.
highlight it. But like I have a sense of responsibility, and then I'm going to be a parent someday. So I think I've become a little more materialistic with savings, and we need to have reliable things because we can't be on the streets. I still need to provide for a family.
uh, a question aroused here. So if you're not Muslim now, do you think you would have been married?
No,
Right?
no, probably not. It's easy. It's easy in American culture. You can just say, "Oh, I want to date this girl." You can date this girl 6 years. Then
Yeah.
you can say, "Oh, I'm done," and you just leave. And it's like this.
Hmm.
But when you're married, and then this is caught up in American culture too, is that now that people are married, they think it's just as easy to get a divorce than it is when you break up with someone. So this is why our divorce rate is over 50% in America. But when you get married for a purpose, then it's, well, I can't just walk away. Even in Islam, divorce is permissible. You don't need any permission from imams or sheikh to get this divorce, but
Hmm.
you should still try to work it out. It's your obligation, and that's something we don't have in American cultures. That makes it a little different. So no, I never would have gotten married if I was not Muslim. I would just keep riding it out the easy way, and wouldn't have gotten me anywhere.
Wow. So about your wife. So you could have married any American girl. Like, why did you choose to marry a Moroccan girl or Arabic or Muslim girl?
Yeah. So um, I started my journey probably too soon, probably because that was one of the harder things to give up when I became Muslim. But eventually, I'm going to have children someday, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And I was not raised Muslim, right? I was raised in America with no standards. And even the Muslims that are my age, that have been born here, they've grown up the American way, you know?
Yeah.
I said, if I really want to teach my kids Islam, then I should marry a woman who grew up in a Muslim country, who grew up hearing the adhan in the streets, who had this big sense of family connections and everything that Islam you need to teach to children, because I can't do it. I can do my best, but I don't know how to think as a 5-year-old Muslim, you know?
Mhm.
So I just went to a Muslim marriage site, and people from all over the world just talking. Oh, how are you? Assalamu alaikum. And then very respectful too. If I didn't respond, I would get oh, I'm sorry, brother, for wasting your time. Like, very, very different than what we see in America.
Hmm.
But my wife, she was a nurse in Morocco. I was studying nursing at the time. So we just started talking. Oh, what do you do in America? And then it went from this, and we stayed on WhatsApp for a while. And we were talking and talking. And I think we were talking maybe 2 years before I decided I'm going to step it up and become official. I went to Morocco, met her father, said, "Can I marry your daughter? She can come to live with me." And he said yes, and they came out. So we've been married since October now.
Yeah. What a wedding it was.
It was fun.
What?
It was a fun wedding.
It was. Everybody loved it.
My
Even
grandparents
your
still
family,
talk
they loved
about
it, right?
my grandparents still talk about you. Just
About
dance.
what?
Just move your arms.
Yeah, just like for Middle Eastern people, we played Moroccan songs and mahraganat, Egyptian music, so we can make it like Middle Eastern wedding. Yeah, right. Well, it was a fun night, honestly. I loved it. Everybody loved it, I guess, even people who were there. Okay, so how's it? Like, tell me, how's marriage?
Marriage is marriage. It's different for everyone. What you
Hmm.
get in is what you put out. There's some adjustment period where you're trying to get used to the other person and how they act and how you act towards other people. Before she came here, I was living in this apartment by myself. I would just go with my friends whenever, and I would stay home whenever and just be alone. If I wanted to have one of these down days where I didn't want to talk to anyone, I could do it. In marriage, it's different because you have someone who's always there with you, and you have to get used to that if you're not used to having people around. But it's been great so far. We're both very
Yeah,
happy.
I see that you've been happy, right?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Do you recommend me to get married?
To the right woman.
Of course.
To the right woman
Well, I'm
and for the right
trying.
reasons.
What?
For the right reasons.
That's right.
Some people will get married just because they have that primal urge,
Hmm.
and then they realize, oh, this is not who I really wanted to marry in the long run. I just had
Hmm.
these crazy feelings because of my hormones, and it's tough.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Find the right woman. Okay, Josh. So, how are you dealing with the cultural differences in marriage? Like, she's from Morocco, you're from the US here, and of course, you're enjoying the food, like the food part. I was calling Josh one day by Sahur, and he was like, "What are you eating for Sahur, Josh?" And he was like, "I'm eating custard with whatever, and I'm eating this and this and that." I was like, having yogurt in front of me, just eating it and go to sleep. Yeah. So tell me about the cultural differences.
I'm 100 kilos now.
Moroccan, man.
It's too much.
Tagine, couscous. Yeah. So tell me,
No,
what
the
about the other thing?
the culture is fun. Um, Again, different from ours. Thankfully, WhatsApp and the technology. So she's with her family every day on video at least. Um, I have to work now. I don't have the luxury of my old job where I could be home whenever. But culture-wise, it's pretty good. I'm open to culture, anyways. She hasn't had too much of an issue with the U.S. culture and how we do things here. We do have that little market down the street, so it's almost like walking down the street in Fez to go get some tomatoes, but that's fun.
Yeah, I remember that mark in Shrewsbury, right?
Yeah. The
Okay.
no, the biggest issue now is that we're all on quarantine and I can't go to the mosque, so I have to be the imam. And it's sometimes I say I just want to do it myself because I don't have to worry about messing up the words and
Hmm.
pronunciation. But she's kept me strong, and we do it, and it's
So
probably better.
she's supporting you.
Yeah.
That's nice. Okay, last question about like this relationship. I mean your marriage. So tell me how Arab women are different than Americans or Western in general. How
Oh,
do you find it
geez.
different?
Yeah. So American women, it's almost like a game to them, or they seek. When you don't have Islam or you don't have your core religion, and you're not following Allah, there is
Hmm.
an emptiness, and you're always trying to fill that emptiness. You don't know what is missing because you cannot see Allah, you cannot hear Him or smell or taste. So you don't know what you're missing. You just feel something. So people will replace it with alcohol, they'll replace it with food, and a lot of people they replace it with another person. So it makes it very interesting dynamic. The women will be with the man because they can, because they think it's what they're missing, and then it turns out nope, that something is still missing. And like I said, then they just part ways. They break up, and then they go to the next man because they start to feel that emptiness again. So you get this women who have just experience and experience and experience with different men, and then they themselves form this different persona, and it's just a very weird dynamic. When you
Mm.
have people from the Middle East where you should get married, this is the case. Even if you have a woman who's been married 3 times, she's still not going to be like a Western woman who's dated 7 or 8 different men. Even
Yeah.
even if it's just a soft dating, like, oh, I was with this guy for 3 weeks, we just went to the movies, he never came to my house or anything like that, it's still different.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And I have two last questions for you. I'm sure a lot of people would be happy with this interview, and some people might watch it over and over. What's your advice to Muslim youth, young people in the Middle East, or even in the Western countries? Like you've got
So
like different perspective than us. You tried both. You weren't, and now you are. We were born like this. Sometimes we don't appreciate things. Sometimes like you appreciate the thing when you lose it or when you miss it. And you are
yeah,
that type of person, like you missed it and now you have it. So what's your advice?
and I can be very self-critical, and is it I have a lot of what I would consider regrets in my life. I did a lot of things that were stupid that to this day are still haunting me, but I'm thankful for those experiences because I know that it was those experiences that brought me to Islam, and that was the path that Allah put me on so that I could discover Islam being from a non-Muslim society. So I'm thankful for that. But always be conscious, one decision that you make today, how is that going to affect you in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years? If you lose your faith, or you drink this alcohol, then it turns out that you have uh, a weakness that you can become addicted easily. Then you're hiding it from your family, and it can become so it's better to just stay away, you know and have patience, especially with the youth. You have all this hormones, you want to get married, your mother says no, you need to become a doctor first, or you need to become an engineer first, so you say, you know what,
Mhm.
so I'm going to keep in secret, and I'm going to go with this girl here. But you don't know what you're doing to yourself, and in 10 years you're going to look back and say, I wish I didn't do that, I wish I stayed true. But everything. And it's not to
Yeah.
say give up everything, only read the Quran, only pray, do this. Go play soccer, you know.
Most
That's
important.
football for anyone in the Middle East.
Yeah.
um it's the beauty of Islam is that you don't need to lock your way in a mountain somewhere and give up
Mhm.
everything except for rice and chicken and just praying. You know, Allah says, enjoy this world. It's for you. You know, if you are a doctor and you're making a lot of money, buy a nice house, but don't forget to give to charity. Don't forget to take care of the people who need to get taken care of.
Right. This is the most important thing. You're just like gonna give it back to Allah where it all came from.
Yeah. But to still enjoy and take, like, if you want to go to Florida on vacation, go by all means. But don't do something that's against your own religion.
Yeah. And last question to you today. It was a very, very interesting conversation, by the way. So if there is a person, only one person that you'd wish they would become Muslim, who that person would be, and we're gonna ask all people who are watching us right now to pray in this month, Ramadan, for this person to be Muslim. Who knows? Allah might like do it, just like make
Yeah,
it reality.
I did, and when I was in Mecca too, I made the prayer as well. So everything comes in its own time, but it would be really great to see my mother become
Yeah,
Muslima. You
and
know,
and
um,
now we're just like we're asking every person who's watching this video to pray for your mom to become Muslim. And إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء. You don't guide whoever you love, but Allah guides whoever He wills to, right? So we all will pray for you, and I'm sure a lot of people would pray for you too, because a
inshallah.
lot of people would love your story and would love you coming up talking about this in this interview. Thank you so much, Josh. I missed you a lot, especially in Ramadan, because I remember last Ramadan we had a lot of iftars together. And inshallah, we're gonna meet soon, right?
Yeah, I think we should still get together for a virtual iftar, and
We can do that. I was talking to Saeed, and we were talking about something like this, or maybe if things get a little bit better, we can all meet and just like do something together.
inshallah,
Okay.
inshallah.
Thank you, Josh, so much. I really, really appreciate that, and everybody's gonna watch is gonna appreciate it.
Yeah, jazakallah khairan for taking the
وأنت
time.
كذلك.
Hopefully, everyone enjoys it.
Inshallah. I'm sure everybody will. يلا مع
Yes.
السلامة.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.